Moving to Bettendorf, Iowa, there are a ton of different neighborhoods to look at, and you're probably not really sure what the differences are. But luckily for you, we're gonna go through every single neighborhood in Bettendorf, and we're gonna do it all in 20 minutes. So how are we gonna show you every single neighborhood in Bettendorf? Well, we're gonna actually hop into the map, and I'm gonna show you all the nooks and crannies that are Bettendorf, so I can help you make a decision on what neighborhood fits your lifestyle and what neighborhoods are really out there. So let's hop on into the map and see what it's all about. Now we have the map in front of us, and you can kind of see the outline of Bettendorf, and it's a little bit of an interesting puzzle piece. It's not a complete square like you might imagine, but it is got a lot of features that is square-like. Now, where are we talking when we talk Bettendorf? The major dividing line is typically considered I-74, but as you can see on the map, it's really not exactly I-74. We have a little chunk over here that is Davenport, that is on the east side of I-74. And then we also have a little chunk down here that is on the west side of Davenport. This little chunk down here is actually known as Riverview. And I'm going to save that to the end because I have something kind of special that I'm doing in Riverview and I want to show you. So we're going to save that one to the end. But the thing that's right next to Riverview is actually our very first neighborhood that we are going to talk about. Now, the thing that you'll notice about the Quad Cities is there's not a ton of quote unquote named neighborhoods, right? But Bettendorf is kind of an exception to that. Kind of not. Bettendorf on the whole has the most amount of named neighborhoods, which are just usually subdivisions that have been named by the developer, and sometimes we don't. In this case, this is not a named neighborhood, and it's because it's one of the older neighborhoods in Bettendorf. So what am I talking about? Well, I am talking about the Central Avenue neighborhood. Central Avenue runs from 14th Street to Devil's Glen, and it covers kind of this whole area of homes. Now, this area is known for its smaller homes. And the reason for that is most of these were built in the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, and specifically those 1940s houses are on the smaller side because people were coming back from the war, and these houses were getting put up super quick. The most notable thing about this neighborhood is in this area right over here, there is something called a Alcoa house. Now, if you're not familiar with Alcoa, down the river here is a manufacturing plant. This manufacturing plant is now called Arconic, but it used to be called Alcoa and is actually where I first worked when I moved to the Quad Cities. But it was called Alcoa, and because of that, they were building houses for their employees, and all these houses that are in this little neighborhood are called Alcoa houses. They all look exactly the same, and they're actually built out of aluminum, which is what Alcoa was manufacturing and is manufacturing still to today. So these were all built for the employees, and you can very much tell an Alcoa house based on its features, specifically the windows. If you look at the corner of an Alcoa house, there is two windows that kind of face right next to each other. That's a clear sign that is an Alcoa house. And you want to know that because the aluminum frame of the house does have some issues when you're trying to like remodel or put up drywall, because it's not your typical wood, which is quick and easy to cut and or drill into. So just something to think about. Now, I just described an Alcoa house to you, but what does it actually look like? Well, when I'm talking about those windows, let's go ahead and zoom on in here, pull up the map, and I'll just point out an Alcoa house to you so you can see it and understand what it looks like. All right, so let's see, where am I at? Well, we are right here. This is a perfect example of an Alcoa house. You see these windows, how they are back to back right on that corner? That is a stereotypical Alcoa house. That's aluminum framed house. Obviously you can see it's on the smaller side, but you can see all of these houses. You got the corner windows. You got the corner windows here. Some of them have been modified. Like you can see, this one may or may not have been Alcoa house. This one is an Alcoa house. And they're all up and down this neighborhood. But that whole neighborhood and this neighborhood that is all Central Avenue is very much defined by these smaller houses, typically smaller lots, and typically on the more affordable side when it comes to Bettendorf. So that's what you see here, and it is the oldest part of town. When you think about it, Bettendorf was really started along the river. That's where all the industry was. That's where all people were trying to be. So things kind of started out down here on the river and then moved northward. And you're going to see that theme as we go through all of these neighborhoods, because the closer you get to the river, typically the older, and the further you get, typically the newer those neighborhoods are. So that is one key neighborhood that people look into, specifically when they're looking for smaller and possibly more affordable housing, is right along Central Avenue, because that's where you can find those houses typically. So just be aware that if you're thinking about those houses, they are aluminum frames and they do potentially have some issues when remodeling. They're great houses. I'm not saying they're not bad houses, but if you want to remodel or renovate, you may have issues with that. Now that's enough of Central Avenue. What other neighborhoods are around? Well, if we come on over here, the thing about this side of Bettendorf is it's actually not Bettendorf. You can see the line here, it goes up and over and back down. And that is actually a city within Bettendorf. This is known as Riverdale. The reason I bring it up is there's basically two different neighborhoods in Riverdale that are considered Bettendorf by a lot of people, but they're technically not. And that is one, the newest, and that is Woods Estates. Now it is right off of the 67 highway here, goes up the hill, and you have all these houses being built as we speak. In fact, we can't even drop our little guy here because this is such a new development, but I have written to this neighborhood and made a video, so I thought it was notable to talk about at the very least, because there are some beautiful homes up there and it is an undergoing development. So want to build, you might want to look there because they are building constantly up in there. But it is not technically Bettendorf, and we're here to talk about Bettendorf. So what is right next door? Well, this neighborhood is one of the named neighborhoods that we do see here, and it is called Deerbrook Estates. As you can see, Deerbrook Drive goes right in here, and these homes are fairly big, built in the 1980s, 1990s, typically speaking. Now, what do you get in this neighborhood that you can't get anywhere else? Well, it all has to do with the HOA that is there. If we look here, all of this area is HOA, except when you go a little bit further north. Some of these houses up here are not the HOA, but this HOA is actually a pretty decent one. You get quite a bit of benefits, especially if you have kids, because if we zoom in, you have things like these tennis courts, basketball courts. You can see there is a community pool, but not only is there a community pool, there is actually another community pool that you get with your HOA, more tennis courts, more basketball courts, and you have access to all of these when you are in this HOA. So as far as HOAs go, it's a pretty decent one because you do get a lot of benefits. Now, I've done other videos on this as well. In fact, we sold a home in there last year and we made a whole video about that house and what this neighborhood was like. So it's a really cool one. Benefits are super big here. It's really close to the area up here is Hy-Vee grocery store. You got your Whitey's. You have all sorts of different access points within maybe 2 to 3 minutes. So it's really nice to see that, specifically if you're looking to be accessible to just about anything. But you do have the nuance here, okay? If you're thinking about school districts, Deerbrook is actually in 2 different school districts. One, you got Bettendorf. The second one is you actually have Pleasant Valley. In fact, this River Heights Elementary is a Pleasant Valley school district, but you could be living in Bettendorf and going there, or you could be living in Bettendorf and going to the Bettendorf school, which is this elementary right here. But either way, you are super close to either one of these elementaries. So it's kind of a win-win, no matter if you're in Bettendorf School District or Pleasant Valley, especially if you have younger kids that are going to be going to elementary school, you're accessible to basically any of them. So something to think about. But if you are concerned about a specific school district, you're going to want to look at it a little bit closer because that neighborhood is split up, and sometimes your neighbor straight across the street is not the same school district. So something to think about if you're thinking about moving to that neighborhood specifically. But it is not the last neighborhood that we are going to talk about. Of course, we're covering as many neighborhoods as we possibly can in this video. Now, as you are deciding on if Bettendorf is the place for you or one of the other cities, you're going to really want to get my relocation guide. I have put a ton of time into this. I put 170 plus videos and I've condensed it all into 41 pages of a relocation guide. We have all the best neighborhoods, places to eat, all the things that you might need if you're making a move to the Quad Cities. So if you want that, click the link down below. It's in the description and in the first pinned comment. So go get it so that you can get all that information. So where else can we go? Well, we can actually zoom on out and talk about a quote-unquote neighborhood that isn't really named. I said at the beginning that Bettendorf is really known for a lot of its named subdivisions / neighborhoods, but this is kind of more a general area than a neighborhood per se. And that is all along Tanglefoot here. Tanglefoot Lane is one of the main thoroughfares that you're going to want to know, as well as Devil's Glen Road. Those are super well-traveled and accessible to everything. So you want to know Tanglefoot Lane, you want to know Devil's Glen, and another one is 18th Street. But the area that I am talking about is around Tanglefoot. A lot of these homes, if you outline it here, are basically 60s, 70s, 80s, a lot of split levels, all up around in this area. I'm actually going to be selling a house soon along 18th Street that's going to be really, really nice. And this one's actually kind of interesting in that it's not 60s, 70s, or 80s. This one was built in 2008, and it's going to be a nice one because of how new it is comparative to the neighborhood, and it is just a nice house in general. So something to think about. But this area is well known for those split levels, for those semi-big homes, but not huge homes. So it's a really good combination between the McMansions and the Central Avenue Alcoa houses. So it's really nice to see that when you're talking about living. You got the combination of affordability, you got smaller / medium-sized houses. Really kind of nice when we're talking about that. But I'm not here to talk about just any area. I want to talk about neighborhoods that are named. The next one that I am thinking about is called Schaefer Farms. Schaefer Farms is basically outlined from Devil's Glen Road to 18th Street and Crow Creek, kind of in this square right here. Now, Schaefer Farms, as it probably applies, used to be a farm. And when Bettendorf was getting developed, Mr. Schaefer sold off his farm and all of this was developed. And again, super nice of an area because of the accessibility to a bunch of different things, specifically the Crow Creek Park. The Crow Creek Park is the biggest park Bettendorf has, and it's, I'd say, arguably one of the nicest. If we hop on in here, you can see what it looks like, where you got the baseball fields, you got playgrounds, and then you also have over this direction the dog park. Now, the dog park is a special place in my home. It's something I'm very passionate about. I'm actually on the dog park committee, and we throw events during the year and raise money to make it as nice as we possibly can. And that's right here in Crow Creek. So it's nice to have access to that from Schaefer Farms. It's literally across the street. So if you have a dog, a kid, anything like that, you're going to want to be in Schaefer Farms because your accessibility to this big park is super awesome. But not only that, Edshek Park, which is a community park, technically city park, but unless you live in that neighborhood, you're not going to really know about it, to be honest with you. I've lived here quite a while, and the only reason I know about it is because I was on the park committee for Bettendorf, and is one of the parks we had to go and check during the summer. So unless you live there, you're probably not going to know about it. And the locals that live in that neighborhood kind of like it that way. So something to think about. You got Crow Creek, but you also have Edshek. And give you an idea, Edshek is much more of a neighborhood park. You got the playground, you got a little bathroom, and a smaller baseball diamond. So some nice thing about that is It's kind of like your own private park if you're thinking about Schaefer Farms. So keep that in mind if you're looking at Schaefer Farms. The thing about Schaefer Farms is that it was built in the early 2000s to the mid 2010s. So it's not the newest neighborhood, but it's also definitely not the oldest. So you have a good combination of homes there. You're getting into much larger homes here. The square footages are much bigger and the amenities with them are a lot better when it comes to talking about homes specifically. But when we're talking new homes, where are we talking about? Well, we are talking about further north and we're talking about further to the east. And one that comes to mind is actually along Middle Road here. And this neighborhood is actually called Wyndham West. Now I will hop on in here, show you just the entrance. I mean, look at that beautiful sign. The houses in here are typically 700 plus, so you can kind of guess in the Quad Cities, that's one of the more expensive neighborhoods that you can possibly be in. So the houses built there are very, very nice. And the thing with this is the amenities that you get. You're not as close to grocery stores. You're not as close to maybe some restaurants. I'm not saying you're far away because you do have a little bit of a shopping area up here. But the thing I really like about this specific neighborhood is the accessibility to the bike path. You can see this creek that goes through here. This creek has a bike path. So if you go out your neighborhood just down a little ways, you get access to that bike path. That bike path goes all the way, you guessed it, right back to Crow Creek Park, where you go past the quarry, which is a little pond in the back. I don't know if you can see it here, but it's all forested. An Iowa Solar. I wonder what they were doing back here. But very nice, super accessible to that area. If you like going out on your bike, like taking your dog for a walk and taking your dog for a walk to the dog park, I mean, you can't do much better than that. But that is Wyndham West. And the other neighborhood that is out in this direction is even newer than that. In fact, it's still getting built as we speak. And that neighborhood is known as Wilderness Point. So what does Wilderness Point look like? Unfortunately, we can't go into the neighborhood because it's so new, but we can look at the entrance to give you an idea of what that possibly could look like. Now, if I can make this Google map work, we can look at the sign there. Absolutely gorgeous. This is an older street view. This is from 2021. So there is a ton more houses here. And this is the creme de la creme of building in Bettendorf. These are the homes that are 800, 900 million plus. It's not the only area, but is one of the premier areas when it comes to building brand new homes is Wilderness Point. So if you want to build a luxury home, Wilderness Point might be the place for you. But it's not the only place. You also have places up here by Forest Grove. Forest Grove Drive is becoming one of the main thoroughfares because it goes right through that plex, and you got the newest school district or school elementary, the Forest Grove Elementary, along with the Forest Grove Park. Say Forest Grove so many times it gets a little bit difficult. I've actually made videos at Forest Grove Park, so if you recognize that from one of my videos, then congratulations. You know exactly where I'm at because I'm showing it to you on the map here. So all of this is getting super developed, brand new homes, $1 million homes. Everything is looking up and up in this area. And I do know they had plans to even build a hospital out in this direction somewhere. The plans haven't been set in stone, but I know they are talking about it. So things are getting built up. Infrastructure is getting built up, not only the houses. So something to think about. Now, I said at the very beginning that I was going to go back to a specific neighborhood, and that neighborhood was Riverside. So why would I go back to Riverside? Now, this is very interesting. Riverside is this little neighborhood that sits down here. It's on the other side of I-74. It's the only place on the other side of I-74 that is still Bettendorf. I have something super special going on here. And the reason I bring that up is because it's one of the projects that I've been working on and we're going to be featuring here on this YouTube channel. And that is the Jefferson Place homes that are getting built. Now, this whole neighborhood is about 1930 to 1940. There used to be a school that sat right here that has since been torn down and now is getting developed into brand new homes. And the project that I am referring to is we are documenting a home build from the very start to the very end, and you're going to see all the different steps and all the things you need to think about when building a home with one of the premier builders in the Quad Cities. His name is Adam. We have done a video with him in the past, and we are making this happen. But the thing about this is it's going to take 6 to 8 months to make this video. So what I need from you is, if you're excited about this video, I need you to hit that like button down below, because it's going to take a lot of work and we're going to have to do a lot of documenting to make this happen. But we are excited to share that with you. So make sure you're hitting that like so we can show you all the progress as we make it along. In fact, you probably are seeing it as I'm speaking. But here's the thing. If you're moving to Bettendorf, you're going to really need somebody on your side. And I am a licensed realtor here in the Quad Cities. I know all the nooks and crannies of Bettendorf. So give me a call, send me a text. I'd love to help you and your family out when making that move here. But if you want to see what these neighborhoods look like, well, I got a playlist right here for you. You can take a look and see what all they look like from my point of view.